Let's say a restaurant is already dealing with other brands, what have you, like Aquafina, Bisleri, and so on, right? How do you convince them when it comes to like Lavia?
So, multiple points. One is obviously margins. Every restaurant wants, number one thing they want is a good looking bottle. Number two thing they want is good margins, right? And if a new brand comes in that is able to provide better margins than us, then they're gonna switch, right? Restaurateurs are like that, they'll just switch.
Today we have with us Vedant, who is the founder of Lavia Water. So water is common, to, we don't take that as a serious part, right? Water in general, but Vedant saw an opportunity over here and built a brand out of it. Lavia Water is a premium ozonized still water that was founded in Bangalore last year. So the brand is designed in such a way that it fits perfectly in the hospitality space. So Vedant, I would allow you to explain why you started this brand and what was the whole motivation behind it.
Yeah, firstly, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. And yeah, so I wanted to get into the beverage space, and water is the most common and the easiest. If you want to get into the beverage space, then water is the easiest category, right? Is the easiest product to get into. The market is not really crowded. I mean, you have industries like tech and AI where it's super crowded and everyone is now getting into it. But water, no one really thinks twice about these days. And it's a huge market. So even if you get a very small chunk in a small city like Bangalore, then even that's, I mean, it just makes business sense. And ideally, I want to get into different categories, maybe like a kombucha and even other beverages, right? Maybe alcoholic, non-alcoholic beverages. So water seemed like the easiest path to kind of start and make contacts and get in touch with all these restaurants, understand the market. So I think that's why I started with water. And a lot of people have asked me the question, why water, man? It's so common. I mean, why did you even think of it? But I mean, it's, you just see something and it kind of makes sense to you.
Interesting. Like if you want to start with a bigger brand down the line, this is the easier way to capture, like get into the market and get some contacts and so on, right? So how does your GTM go-to marketing strategy look like right now? Like you have a brand which says Lavia Water and you are selling water, right? How do you go into the market? There are already big players. How do you kind of cut through them and so on? If you could give like a bit of insight on that part.
Yeah. So we have positioned ourselves kind of like a semi-premium brand. So we're not really premium, and we're not mass as well, right? A normal 1 liter bottle will sell for 20 rupees in the market. And we are slightly highly higher priced. And the justification for that is firstly in our treatment process and second in our positioning itself. But we're not really heavy into marketing and heavy into doing sponsorships or doing events and showcasing our brand. We run like a very old school B2B business where we talk to Horeca platforms, restaurants, cafes. We tell them the advantages of, keeping our bottles rather than ABC brand. And we really have no communication with the end consumer. We just, all our effort goes into the sales side of the things. And yeah, that's really where we put all our effort in. And we're just 4 or 5 people now, and everyone is just doing sales. We don't have a marketing guy, we don't have a accounts guy, we don't have anyone else. It's just sales. So that's our GTM.
Interesting. Like when you're just getting started, all you need is
Yeah.
like the first 5 to 10
Yeah.
customers who are
And it's
paying
water,
100.
right? It's water. So there's no edge, right, in the product itself. So it's the way that you position yourself in distribution. So yeah, I think it's just key for us to have distribution in as many restaurants as possible. And then when people are there, they don't really care that much about what brand it is that the restaurant has. If they're thirsty, they'll drink water. So I think our objective is to be present in as many restaurants as possible.
Interesting. Considering it's more on the B2B side, right? Let's say a restaurant is already dealing with other brands, what have you, like Aquafina, Bisleri, and so on, right? How do you convince them when it comes to like Lavia. Okay, you are already dealing with them. They are already dealing and they have a good fulfillment. Everything supply chain is taken care, prices are taken care. They are there already, right? Let's say 5 years, 10 years, or 2 years, or 1 year down the line. How do you position yourself there? And what are some of the benefits that you explain them that they consider your brand? Considering other factor for them is okay, Bisleri I was or other XYZ brand, I was paying 20 rupees. Here I have to pay 30 rupees. On top of that, the customer needs to pay and so on. How does that conversation go like?
So, multiple points. One is obviously margins. Every restaurant wants, number one thing they want is a good looking bottle. Number two thing they want is good margins, right? And if a new brand comes in that is able to provide better margins than us, then they're going to switch, right? Restaurateurs are like that. They'll just switch. Most of the restaurants will switch for their good margins. So we are able to provide those margins. And although I can't say the what exact margin are we giving, but since we're a semi premium brand, the MRP kind of allows us to, allocate that extra margin to our retailer. And we don't work with distributors, we work directly with restaurants. So we have a sales team, they make calls to restaurant owners and managers. And when we get our bottles placed in a restaurant, we are dealing directly, we don't have a distributor in between. So things like MOQ, things like delivery timeline, stuff like that, is we're very flexible with it because we are a startup. Established brands have distributors and they don't have control over the kind of MOQ that is going, because that is in the distributor's hand. So I think that's also something that gives us an edge. So yeah, I think these couple of points.
Interesting. What are some of the physical challenges that comes on the operational side of things? Like how does that work? You all have a manufacturing unit or
Yeah. So we outsource everything from manufacturing to distribution, not to distributors, but through the kind of vehicles. Like sometimes we'll even get passenger autos to send the stock, right? Because it's not that much stock. Maybe it'll be 10 cases or 15 cases, which will be a waste of money if you go through an agency. So it's very jugadu, I would say, the way we operate. And yeah, that becomes a challenge because then we don't have an operations guy, right? So I have to be, or someone has to be on the call all the time to, just the passenger autos every time it's a new guy, right? So that becomes a challenge. The deliveries can become a challenge, and we haven't reached a stage where we need a distributor, which means we can take care of the operations ourselves, which is not necessarily a good thing. But yeah, it takes up some time. So I'd say the sooner you can put in a standard practice of transport, then it becomes easy. But you have to reach that kind of scale to be able to do that. Otherwise, it'll be a waste of money.
interesting. Since you are into this semi-premium segment, right? I feel the major, like besides the product being good, the major factor would be on the packaging side or
Yeah,
on the
correct.
branding side of things, right? What are some of the key elements that Lavia has over other competitors on the branding side of things or packaging side of things that makes the customer feel this is a premium water bottle? I might as well
Right.
pay like $20, $30 extra. How
Right.
do you
Right.
play with the customer psychology over there?
So for us, the key positioning that we're trying to make is we're trying to position Lavia as a fashion brand, right? And we say that you don't just drink it, you wear it. So that's the goal we're going with. And if you look at a lot of the other brands, the focus will be from a purity angle or from like a hydration angle, right? And those things have been done. Purity has been done by multiple brands multiple times. You'll see the same color everywhere and it's just ripping off other brands. And it's there's a huge unorganized space in the bottled water market, especially in Bangalore. About 10 to 15% of the market is unorganized, and by unorganized I mean by local players who are just selling water and not a brand, right? So the focus has been to look like a cool brand that kind of appeals to the youth, and the packaging is also like that. I mean, this kind of packaging, it's not really been seen before. We only see either a blue or a green color by every other brand. So I think that's the angle that we've taken, but we haven't really gone full fledged as of now, but it's just this angle that we will be taking on further as well.
Interesting. I like the point where you mentioned that the category where they are saying it's pure water, hydrated sector,
Yeah.
like that is the key. Those are the keywords they are playing with. Is something you don't want to get into because there are
Yeah.
already players over there, right? Most of the upcoming founders that have seen, or like seen them talking, is that, oh, this is the category, like most of the people are getting in. I have seen this brand doing so well with this category, and they kind of get into the same category despite knowing that there are already existing players who are like fighting the battle over there. This
Right.
approach was good, but then how do you define, like, okay, this category is saturated, or this category there are players? Besides seeing it from the outside, how do you look into it from, like, a data perspective? How do you go about that?
So I haven't really given that a thought, but I
Mm,
think the only thing that comes to my mind is I would never really go to an Instagram page of XYZ brands, some of the major brands in India. And they're not even Indian brands, right? All of the major brands that we know are not Indian brands. But I mean, I want to create something where, the youth kind of wants to go to the Instagram profile and scroll through, and because it's cool. And a lot of brands are doing that. A lot of startups are doing that. Some alcoholic startups that I've seen on Instagram. There's one called Godka, which I think is vodka, or it's a non-alcoholic something, but they have such a cool Instagram page. And I think I get inspired by all these brands and all these startups, right? Because startups are doing this. The established brands don't need to do this, so they're not really doing it. Their key focus is distribution. And yeah, I think creating a packaging and story around the brand that is appealing to the eye of the youth, and they can go to the Instagram and search it up. So I think that's the kind of approach that we will be taking, even though so far we've only been focused on sales.
interesting. Coming to like on the Instagram side of things, right? When I was scrolling through your Instagram, I saw, like, on the I feel it was on the badminton court or tennis court or something. There's a bottle, and then the photo shoot and all have is there over there,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you mentioned it's for the the cool, to look cool on the Instagram, that category, right? Making it a cool brand so that people who actually want to get sold for that kind of thing. Well, let's say example Prime. Okay, Prime is like, okay, they have a good product, but there are also other brands that are doing good. Like they have the similar kind of things, or Poppy, or all these US based brands, right? So the major thing that people kind of get sold for is the branding and how cool they look, or how cool the bottle looks in their hands, and so on and so forth, right? So if you had to do that part in scale, how would you take that strategy? Like right now it's on like just maybe athletes or someone who has been using it, but then if you want to actually make it like a cool brand, what is the vision that you would have? I'm just like wanted to read your mind on that.
So I've given this a thought, and there's multiple avenues where you can associate with, let's say, music, right? You can so every artist, when they sing, they have a water bottle kept beside them, right? And I mean, Bira and Budweiser, all these beer brands are such good examples of that, because they're always present there at concerts, right? So they've associated themselves with that concert vibe, right? And then there's Red Bull, who's associated themselves with adventure sports and F1 and the sports side of things, right? So I think for us, music could be a good avenue, because I mean, that's kind of biased because I used to be a musician and I'm kind of more attached towards that side of things. But also sports like golf, chess, and so on are also attractive avenues. So I think just visibility in these kind of spaces kind of paints a picture of the kind of brand that we also want to be. And I know this sounds different from the whole angle of being a fashionable brand, but I mean, you can do both, right? You don't have to stick to one thing. You can be both, right? Some people play chess, but they also play basketball. So you don't have to stick to one thing. And I think if you're true in what you're doing, in what you're associating with, if you're really passionate about music and the brand also signifies it, then I think it makes sense. So I think we would like to associate with these kind of things and be present at events, and create content around the content is king, right? We all know nowadays. So yeah, I think those are the kind of things we would do. Besides that, nothing really that comes to my mind, but I think those, but yeah, when you plan well and associate with one of these arms, then I think that's what we would do.
Interesting. So if you had to give an advice for someone who wants to get into this category, what are some of the things that they should avoid?
I think they should avoid ripping off anyone, because now everyone is getting sued. Whoever has ripped off any brand. So you shouldn't, I think, have nice packaging, because that is the first thing that someone will see. have something unique about the brand. See, first thing is, if you're only doing water, do you want to create a brand, or do you just want to sell water and make money? Because that is also one thing, right? But if you want to create a brand and you're looking at water as a entrant or product, and then you want to get into later beverages, then I think planning well is something. But do think one step at a time, because when I started, I didn't really think that I want to create a family of beverages. That idea only came after a while. And I think your distribution is key, because volume is king in FMCG products, especially in low margin products, right? For water, the margins are, I mean, it's a 20-30 rupee bottle. So you'll need to sell lakhs and lakhs of bottles every month and thousands of cases every month. And I think distribution is key, branding is key, your packaging is key. Yeah, I think building good relationships with the kind of clients, if you're working with Horeca, then good relationships with Horeca platforms and restaurant owners will come very useful later on.